Good morning, good afternoon, and evening, baseball fans. Welcome back to the Barstool Baseball Show. This is Monday, and we have a fresh power ranking panel show for you. Little caveat, though, no hubs this week. It is Klemmer, it is Castellani. It's myself, Carl, here. Little three-man weave off the top. Klemmer, I say it every time you get a haircut. You look so much younger, fresher. You look like Jim Carrey from Me, Myself, and Irene right now. If you're watching this, throw us a subscription. Chris Klemmer is Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I was at Sopranos Con and people would come up to me and go, "You look like Jim Carrey. Can I take a picture with you?" I'm like, "Sure, I guess." So that happened twice at Sopranos Con. Very strange.
Was that this weekend, Sopranos Con?
No, it was my 40th birthday. Way back when.
Way back then. Castellani, welcome to the show. We're going to do 9 baseball teams. We'll get the best 9 baseball teams right now in baseball. We're going to put them together. We got our batting order. It's me, Klemmer, and then Castellani. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Opening comments? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We are in, I think, for a phenomenal last week of the season with the races that we have going on right now. I'm very excited. I think there's a chance this top 9 could be completely flipped upside down by the time outside the top 3 by the time we get to this point next week. It's going to be exciting.
This is our second to last traditional power ranking panel show of the year, I believe. We're going to do another one next Sunday. But as we get into it, there's 6-7 games left, a couple spots. Playoffs are hot as playoffs are about as stumbling here Sunday morning. The playoffs should be an amazing format. Let's just get into it. Number 1 team of the week, it's the Atlanta Braves. Now, a little issue here as we get in the division series if Max Fried is not going to pitch and Charlie Morton has a blister and isn't in that rotation. This could be very, very sad for the Atlanta Braves. It would be so sad if they didn't have the starting pitching to back up the greatest lineup of my lifetime.
I think they'll be okay. I think Max Fried, Max Fried pitched 6 innings that game. I think they kind of knew that he maybe wasn't 100% right, and he still let him go the 6 innings. That was back on Thursday, right? And they still let him go. So I think it's going to be okay with him. I think this is just precautionary, and then he'll be ready for the playoffs. I think not having to play that week, that wild card week, is just a huge advantage for a team like the Braves. They get their starting pitching aligned the right way. Everyone gets a little breather. Especially some of these guys like Acuna and Matt Olson play almost every day. So it gives them a chance, everyone to sit down and relax, and then hit the ground running.
That is the advantage of having a young offense, is you have a ton of durability. They're very rarely are the position players injured. I think what they're trying to avoid is the situation they ran into last year when they got into the NLDS and Strider was just kind of coming back from injury and he was not healthy. And I don't know if Morton was 100%. I think that they're in a position right now with the year that they've had that they can put one of their best guys on the 15-day IL right before the postseason and not have to worry about it. So yeah, number 1 for a long time. It's going to stay that way for the remainder of the regular season.
How many weeks now do you guys think they've been the number 1 team?
It's got to be going back to...
It was the Rays for, I feel almost 4 months, and it's been the Braves, I feel for 2. But maybe it's not exactly that.
I would say since July. I would say since July or June. Yeah, because the Rays skid kind of started in the early part of the summer, so I'd say right around there.
Yeah, I'll go back. I think it's mid-late June is where the Braves became number 1.
It might be. I always thought we were a little late on the Rays skid. I felt like we were so high on the Rays. I felt like we kind of were the last man standing with them being the number 1 team baseball. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But no, it's been interesting. Either way, it's been a kind of a year of 2 halves, right? The first half of the year was all Rays, and the second half of the year was all Braves. It is kind of interesting to kind of look at it and see how it all kind of shakes out from that perspective. I'd like to see some of those early April and May power rankings and see just how off we were.
Well, we had the Pirates early on, I feel like. So
I didn't. You fuckers did.
Well, they played their fucking way into it, and I'm not going to tell a team that doesn't win baseball games early in the season that those wins don't fucking matter.
I think I was even in on the Pirates on one of those weeks.
Yeah, I think
the Reds are all you guys. You guys own that fucking shit.
Blow me. You're so excited to declare them a fraud. Yeah, you just can't wait to get to the part of the show where all right, yeah, we know Braves are 1. We know what we're going to do at 2, 3, 4. Let's just get to the part of the show where Klemmer tap dances on the Reds for being a shitty baseball team down the stretch.
I wouldn't even say that. Actually, they played better than I thought.
Frauds.
I just the idea that they were like this like top 9 team is so stupid. Sorry.
You fuck. You slimy, greasy little fuck. What do we got? What do we got? 2 Braves 1. Blah blah blah. Who's surprised? Number 2.
Yeah, and this is actually to Castellani's point that this whole list could shake up by this time next week. This pick even could. I have the Orioles at number 2. But look, the Rays catch them by the end of the year. You got to have the Rays here. But right now, the Orioles have a game and a half lead. I got like a hair in my mouth. My dogs. I have 2 dogs. I'm covered in dog hair all the time. But yeah, it's definitely the Orioles, I feel. Look, like we say it all the time, we don't really know exactly how they do it, but they do pull it off. But one thing I really like about them that's kind of happened the last week and a half is John Means is back. And this is what we've been talking about literally all fucking year. It's like they need starting pitching help. They go and get Jack Flaherty. We're like, we don't really like this move, but it's better than nothing. Actually, nothing would have been better. He was horrible, but they finally found that guy in Means now, and now we have this interesting rotation. So now you have Grayson, you got Bradish, and now you have Means. Now we have the 3 guys we've been talking about all fucking year. And it's so funny. The guy that might save their season from a postseason perspective was under our nose the entire time. I feel like John Means has been to the Orioles for at least as long as Castellani's been alive.
Yeah.
So I think having this Means option, and he looked incredible his last start, this could be a game changer for the Orioles.
I'm with you. Yeah, I think that this entire thing kind of got turned on its head. Even if they don't win this division, I kind of feel better about them going into October because, like, I think we keep saying, oh, where's the true ace here? And, well, yeah, from an October standpoint, we don't know. Kyle Bradish has been one of the best starters in the American League this year. I know that maybe there's an unproven track record, but him 1, Means 2, and then he probably got Grayson going in game 3. I mean, you're in a really good spot right now. And they're going to need some innings out of that rotation because with Felix, who knows what's going on with Felix Bautista? They've blown a few saves recently, blew a huge game against Cleveland the other night. So, yeah, I mean, they got the Rays kind of, still battling out for that division, but they've answered the call all year. I mean that, they're going to the postseason. They're going to be close to a 100-win team. It's been a great story.
I have the Orioles 3rd this week. I won't argue with them being 2nd. I do have them 3rd this week, and that's because they dropped 3 in a row after those 2 great wins against Houston.
Who do you have 2, Carl, right? The Rays?
I have the Dodgers.
Oof, I can't. Yeah, that pitching staff is just atrocious.
Yeah. I have the Dodgers too.
I have the Dodgers way lower than that. I just don't believe in them being a great team. Now the Orioles. So one negative about the Orioles, which is kind of what Carl's saying here, is that they had a couple of chances, I think, to kind of slam the door on the Rays, and they haven't done it. And they do have a game and a half lead. There's only 7 games left in the regular season.
One has 6, one has 7, I think. Okay, for them, yeah.
Right. So either way, not many. So a game and a half lead is huge when you have so few games left. But I'll say it though, man. If the Orioles do fucking piss this away, they have no one to blame but themselves because they had a number of chances. Now, I credit to the Rays for hanging around. The Rays have 95. They're 95 and 61. The Rays could win 100 games, and both teams could win 100 games, and then someone's not going to win the division. Which is why we have the wild card. We talk about this, the 93 Giants. There's evidence of this in the past. Even the Mets last year wouldn't have been in the playoffs. It was the old school way. So it's nice that we have this option. So I'm not going to say either team, quote unquote, choked because both teams have been incredible. But man, the Orioles, they had a couple of chances to knock this down. But I still think they'll get there.
I'm not saying they shouldn't be too. I'm interested in your arguments. I knew when I put the Dodgers too, I was heavily weighing the bulk of the season as we kind of get to the end of the year where I'm like, they're locked up number 2 seed in the NL West. I felt more comfortable than where the Orioles are at present moment after dropping 2 of the first 3 to the Guardians. The Rays, to all the things you said, their credit. An amazing club. But the last point I just wanted to make about the Orioles though here too is this thing about John Means. Because I hope there's someone listening to this that isn't very familiar with John Means because I can't stress how overwhelmingly mediocre he is. He looks like he would be pitching in a men's league. He looks like he wouldn't be the number 3 for Central Michigan. Like there's nothing about John Means that makes you intimidated or anything. He's got nothing, and he's an effective major league pitcher's a great guy to bet on. He always has been. He's like a legend on Pick Central. The guys on Pick Central have been fucking blowing John Means proverbially for, the years. He's one of Big F's favorite pitchers in the history of baseball. John Means is like a legend in betting day baseball. It'd be cool if he could take that legendary status he has with us degenerates and like apply that on a national scale for the rest of baseball fans that don't really understand. Like he is a hard guy to square up because of how overwhelmingly like average approaching. And someone said, yeah, go ahead.
This is not a fair comp at all because this is different stratospheres. But he's a little bit like Greg Maddux in that he is so precise. He doesn't. You watch him pitch, and it's like there's nothing. Even when you watch Maddux pitch back in the day in his prime, 94, 95, you're like, this guy isn't that much fun to watch. There's nothing electric about him at all. But yet he can hit every spot he needs to. And there's something to be said for that amazing pinpoint precision. John Means kind of has that. He doesn't have exactly as great as control as Maddux, and Maddux obviously had better stuff. Maddux obviously is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. But they do have kind of the similar school of that, I'm not going to overwhelm you, but I'm going to hit all my spots. I'm incredibly cerebral on the mound. I'm going to outthink you. I'm going to figure out where we are, what position, how many times you've batted, where I need to try to trick you on the count. Like both pitchers are very bright. I think I've never really heard John Means say too much. I after he got the no-hitter, I heard him talk a little bit, but I bet he's a very bright guy, or at least he pitches very bright.
I think John Means about to have a breakout October. How about that?
That'd be awesome.
Household name, John Means.
I think that'd be great. And who's deserved it more? He's been with the Orioles since 2018. So he's one of those guys that's been there when they were shit. He's kind of gone through, kind of like Altuve a little bit, the Astros. Like they've gone through the shit and they got to come out the other side, like Andy Dufresne and Shawshank. Like they deserve that moment,
Who's number 3?
Man, okay. I almost mixed it up here because I really like the way the Milwaukee Brewers are playing. And I think, even with that offense being what it is, first of all, it's come alive a little bit. I mean, they scored 12 runs in one inning the other night. I mean, it's not, they're not completely putrid. And I think their pathway to the World Series makes more sense to me because of that three-headed monster they have at starting pitching. And the bullpen's really good. They have one of the best closers in baseball. He's versatile. But I can't ignore run differential. I can't ignore regular season record. And I just can't ignore how good the Tampa Bay Rays have played all season. So I do have Tampa here at number 3. I think that I also think that they are at a disadvantage because of the division they're in. If they played in any other division, I think they'd be comfortably number 3. But because they're in second place, they're still trailing the Orioles. We kind of not punish them, but we kind of knock them down maybe just a little bit. They've had a phenomenal year. Pitching has somehow found a way to stabilize itself despite the injuries. And ultimately, look, the Rays are going to have their plan in October. They're going to have a guy who's going to come to Kevin Cash and say, I need Glasnow facing this many batters. I need Eflin facing this many batters. And then they're going to turn it over to a bullpen that is locked down. It's weird that there's other bullpens in the league that we talk about that might have more star power, but I don't know if any of them are better than the Rays. The Rays churn out guy after guy who's going to throw 100, who's going to have wipeout off-speed stuff. They're going to try to shorten games in October. That offense is a difficult lineup to navigate through. They've given themselves a shot seemingly against all odds with a number of crazy things that have happened to them. I got them in that number 3 spot and well-deserved in my opinion.
The Rays have 7 relievers with an ERA under 3.
Insane. That's historically good.
That's impressive. I mean, that's telling me I don't care who you bring out. There's no weak link in that chain, and that is tough. The rotation, does it frighten me a little bit in October? You got Eflin, Glasnow, go with Savali. But Savali's been bad as much as I like him. He's been pretty lousy. Zach Littell, I guess, is that. I just worry about that game 3 and that game 4. I just don't know what they can do there, and that's concerning to me. I do say, though, the Rays have more power than we give them credit for. I think they have something like 11, or I guess without Wander Franco, 10 guys with 10 or more home runs. So they have kind of more deceiving power than you might think. The Rays are really good. There's no question about it. There's some holes there that I have a hard time kind of ignoring when we're talking about top 3 teams in the majors. But I have been 3 too, Chris.
For sure. And honestly, once you get past, you could even argue it with the Orioles, though I think with Means there, you kind of fix that issue. Once you get past the Braves, there's a significant flaw in every team on the remainder of this list. So I mean, it's like I can't necessarily punish them for that. And I think with the days off that you're going to get in a playoff series, I think it's going to be they're going to try to get Savali and Littell one time through the order, and then it's bullpen day. And I think that they're going to try to ride that wave through October. We'll see if it works, but they're going to have their plan here. Yeah.
The Rays have lost one series in the last 6 weeks. 6 weeks. One series, and it was a 3-game set against the Guardians, and they lost the first 2 games of the series 3-2, 7-6.
Huh.
Wow, that's impressive. It's funny, if you look at their, you know how like in Baseball Reference you can see like how much their wins are by like the little green or red markers?
Yeah.
Like if you look at the beginning of the season, it's like New York City, like this giant skyscrapers. And then as it goes down, it's like, it's a little town now. But there is substantial amount of green there. You obviously the whole idea is stay away from those reds. And it's just much smaller. It's like maybe it's more like Topeka now. It's not Manhattan anymore. But there's a lot of green.
Manhattan, Kansas?
Sure.
I believe that's called a histogram. I believe that chart is called a histogram.
I like that.
Sure, good charts.
It's funny because Carl had a hysterectomy about 2 years ago.
Still that.
I don't know. Is that when they snip your ball? They snip your...
No, it's when they take out all your lady parts.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Appreciate that. My lady parts. Oh, come and get it, Klemmer. All right.
Okay.
we have an eclectic mix here. We have an eclectic mix of teams because the Braves, the Orioles, the Rays, you can have 3 different teams. Even though the Orioles and the Rays don't spend like money at the top of the league, the way that they are at the top of the league is completely different, I would argue. Right?
Easily. Yeah.
I think it's fair.
And then the Braves are like the best at. But there isn't a team who's in the mix that signs the free agents. Can we say the Dodgers are 4th, or do you guys don't like that? I'm interested in who you would put 4th.
I had them 5.
Okay. I have the Brewers 5. I have the Brewers
5 as well. I have the Phillies 4.
You fucking son of a gun! You son of a gun! I'll take an argument on this.
Yeah, so the way I put my list together is which teams would I least want to face in the playoffs, or which teams do I feel are most dangerous in the playoffs. And I had the Phillies high there. Now, if you choose the Dodgers over the Phillies, because look, the Dodgers, are having this very impressive regular season. They're going to win the division by a mile. They still are they still could, if they go 5-2 or 5-3, I think they still would win 100 games. So if you're choosing the Dodgers for that, I can't argue. It's just different philosophies. But I think the Phillies are just a really scary team to face in the playoffs.
I like your philosophy. I like what you're saying about, because that's how I did wait. I waited on the more of the regular season because we're towards the end of the regular season. So to honor the regular season. But if the focus is into the postseason and who would be more dangerous, I would agree with you that the Phillies are a harder matchup than the Dodgers. And as you say that, I'm curious what Vegas thinks.
Me too. That rotation right now, I guess, would be Kershaw, Miller, Lynn.
Yeah,
and
probably.
The Dodgers have the second best odds to win the World Series at 4-1. The Phillies are 12-1. So, I mean, like Vegas is saying either you're dead wrong or Vegas thinks that the money would just more easily go to the Dodgers, I suppose.
I mean, to the Dodgers' credit, they don't have to play that wild card round. The Phillies do. So, right. I mean, that's a big deal. So, so I understand that perspective for sure. I'm not going to say Vegas. I wonder if once the Phillies got out of that first round, if it would even up a little bit more. Obviously, it would. That Phillies number would obviously go down. I don't know if it would go down to 4-1 though. That seems so high for the Dodgers. I don't even know who their 4th starter would be. Like, I don't know who's going to pitch that game 4, and that to me is troubling. But that offense, you can't deny how great their hitting is. I mean, if it wasn't for the Braves, you'd be saying the Dodgers have this borderline historic offense.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you think the Brewers are like that much worse than the Phillies, or what do you think of that comparison?
No, I have the Brewers a 5th on my list, but it's very close to 4.
I'd be more comfortable with the Brewers at 4 than the Phillies at 4.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Brewers have that sensational pitching. They have the best pitching in the National League, first in ERA. Their bullpen's outstanding. They have maybe the best closer. That 1, 2, 3 is just fantastic. Now that Woodruff's back, like that is just awesome. And then even 4, you have Wade Miley, who's been pretty good this year. The problem is they just can't hit. I know they have that 12-run inning, but I mean, at the end of the day, though, they are, But Craig Counsell has that team doing everything right. They do all the little things right. They move runners over, sacrifice flies. They are 15th in slugging percentage, but I believe they're 9th in runs. And that tells me that they're just making the most of their opportunities, as few and far between as they are.
That's a really good statistic that you brought up, Klemmer. And in many ways, they probably produce more runs than they have any right to. Good base running team, I would guess. Like you said, doing the little things. Yeah, I'm comfortable with Brewers there at 4. But to your Phillies point, I know we know how good the Braves are. The Braves look more mortal against the Phillies than any other team. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are taking into account here. It's not just the NLDS last year. I think because of the power arms in that rotation and just the overall experience of the roster, I think that they are the team, right? They won't admit it. It's the one team Atlanta probably doesn't want to play. And I think that makes them more dangerous on this list. Yeah.
The Brewers, by the way, have only been to one World Series their entire franchise history. It was 1982 against the Cardinals. They lost in 7 games. And that was so far back, they were in the American League then.
They were in the AL, yeah.
So, for them to make it to the World Series, they've only been to, I believe, 2 or 3 LCSs. For them to make it to the World Series again would be such a huge thing for them. Now, they have to get past the Braves, the Dodgers, the Phillies. It's a pretty big juggernaut. But their pathway is pretty, not to say easy, but easier. Carl and I kind of went through it a couple weeks ago on the show. But, they would, in theory, they would play whoever's the worst wildcard team, which is going to be someone probably pretty lousy. The Reds, Cubs, someone who's not that great. And then from there, they would play the Dodgers. And the Dodgers have some problems. And then from there, you play whoever's in, might be the Braves. The Braves might have been knocked out. So I think that path, if you had to pick a pathway, that's the one I would want. Yeah,
no, I vibe with that for sure.
Hey, just some context on the Brewers' futility as an organization historically. Jeff Cirillo is their 7th best player of all time. Jim Ganter is 10th.
Well, Ganter was a good defensive player.
Sure.
He was there forever, too.
Teddy Higuera.
I know. He was a very nice pitcher, but the idea that you could make a case he's the best pitcher in Brewers history is troubling.
I'm sorry, I'm giggling so much. He had 6 seasons. He played 6 full seasons. Very young.
Yes.
And he's their 5th best player in Brewers history.
It's insane.
Jim Ganter was good defensively?
Yeah. He played second base for them for forever.
What about Gorman Thomas, center fielder?
Power hitter. Terrible center fielder. Ended up being traded or was free agent, went to the 86 Mariners, and he was part of the team that Roger Clemens struck out 20. He was in that lineup that day. But Gorman Thomas was a power hitting, interesting player, but kind of a mess. But big bat.
Twice led the league in strikeouts.
Yeah, struck out a ton.
But also twice led the league in home runs, 45 home runs out of center field. The reason I bring up Gorman Thomas, too, is a complete tangent here for the Brewers. If you just get a chance to Google image this man's picture, this needs to get brought back. This is what I'm talking about. Sex, power, mustache, big hair coming out of the back of the hat.
He was a man's man. Even his name, Gorman Thomas. That's a man's man.
That sounds like a guy who owns a fast food chain. Yeah.
All right, let's get to I like 4, Brewers at 4, but then I would concede and say Phillies 5.
Yeah, I'm 5th, and I love that. Okay. I'm all for that. That works for me. Phillies, Trey Turner's back. That lineup's nasty. Bryce Harper's, probably is still going to finish the year with 20 home runs. I think he's got 19 right now, which is pretty admirable considering what he dealt with all year. It seems like his power is back. Yeah, and that Phillies rotation is not one I would really want to face in the playoffs. They don't have the same issues the Dodgers do. Their starting pitching's been really durable all year long. You have Wheeler. I know Aaron Nola's kind of a headache, but I still think he has good stuff. I know he does. Taijuan Walker, he's got 15 wins this year. So they have the rotation, I think, to go deep in October. See if they can do it again. They have to do it against the wild card spot, which makes it hard, but yeah, the Phillies, I think, have been kind of consistent with us for the last 6 weeks, I feel like.
I'm a bit worried about their bullpen, Bit worried about Kimbrel wearing down. They got some other. They got some strong arms. Like Alvarado's good for them. Gregory Soto's nothing. I didn't like him with the Tigers either. But you brought up Harper. I think that it's weird how his ascension. It makes sense. His ascension has kind of coincided with the Phillies' ascension. I feel like as his power numbers have gone up, the team started to win more games. One thing that can't be overlooked, he is, in terms of current players in the league, I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out that people are going to get mad at me for. Maybe the best postseason hitter, 963 career postseason OPS. I mean, he's a dangerous, dangerous hitter in October. He thrives for these moments. And considering the fact that I feel like he's getting healthier every day, I could see him going off in the postseason like he did last year. So, yeah, they're becoming a more dangerous team. Dombrowski bunch, they're going to hit home runs. They're going to have power arms. And you also know that they're going to be a threat when we get to the postseason. So I have no problem with them at 5.
And don't forget, they have Chris Castellani's future Hall of Famer JT Realmuto on the team. So
Realmuto's great. Yeah.
Little, you want to explain yourself there, Klemmer? Sounds like you don't think Realmuto's a Hall of Famer.
He's not a Hall of Famer. We had this discussion a while back, and I think Castellani took an L there, but that's fine.
If Richie Ashburn can make the Hall of Fame for the Phillies, then why can't JT Realmuto?
Because Richie Ashburn was a better player. So
Richie Ashburn had 29 career home runs, Klemmer.
Yeah, I know. He wasn't a power hitter. So we kicking Tony Gwynn out too?
No. All right.
The basis of my logic for that is I think Realmuto's at his peak is a better player than Yadier Molina, and Yadi's going to guarantee going to walk to Cooperstown. I also thought that Realmuto had a few more 6 more seasons left in him, so I gotta probably jump the gun there. But even so, it's a guy you bat him 6th. I mean, that's a good lineup, and of course,
he's a very good player. I'm kidding around. Realmuto is a very good catcher to have, and it shows you that depth that the Phillies have from power perspective. Obviously, you still have Kyle Schwarber. We haven't mentioned his name. You go through that lineup. Brandon Marsh is a very good player.
Well, Bohm has had a good year. Alec Boehm's had a good year too.
Yeah, yes.
Go back to Brandon Marsh. The Phillies have a top 5 center field production from wins above replacement. So I think Julio Rodriguez, Luis Robert. So Seattle, Chicago White Sox, the Angels, even though Trout only had 350 plate appearances. But then I think number 3 or number 4 on the season is the Phillies, and the bulk of those plate appearances are through Brandon Marsh.
It's good.
I'm not surprised. He's been fantastic, and that's they've been. Imagine how good this lineup would be if they had Rhys Hoskins.
I know,
because that's the one kind of issue they have. They don't really have that first baseman. I know they had Harper kind of playing it out, but imagine if they had that 30 home run guy there. Then they still wouldn't have won the division because the Braves are there, but they would have easily won 90 games. I feel
for sure. Number 6, right? That's this is where I think because a few weeks ago it was Braves 1, Dodgers 2, locked in for about a month. They were 1-2. Obviously, the Braves have not moved. Dodgers definitely have, but this is where I can't drop them any lower than 6. I think that any team below them, while good, has a substantial flaw that I worry about. And while the Dodgers do as well, the offense is so difficult to navigate through. I think you're going to have, once you get to October, you're going to have a lot of teams that are going to be fine if they can get 4 innings out of their starting pitcher, because it's not just that it's a team that hits home runs, they can hit for power. They have, multiple multi-time All-Stars, including 2 future Hall of Famers. They work pitch counts. I mean, and pitchers have been open about the fact that in October, 1 inning feels like 3 innings. And the idea of, hey, we can make this guy throw 20 pitches an inning. This is the kind of lineup that's capable of doing it. The concerns of the starting pitching are there. And even the concerns of starting pitching, I don't know if the bullpen is good enough to be in the way that the Rays is, where I could see the Rays pen kind of carrying them all the way through October. I don't see that with the Dodgers. With that said, the lineup's too good. And it's not like the rotation is awful. I mean, Kershaw still has a 2.4 ERA. It just keeps getting it fucking done. Miller's looked a lot better lately. His stuff is fantastic. But yeah, beyond that, it does scare me, but I can't go lower than 6 for this team. They've played too well in the second half.
Agreed. Can't go. I would not. I think that just can't go lower than 6 for the Dodgers. Then we start to get into disrespectful territory when you look at their win total.
No, I agree. 6 is the right spot. The Dodgers, by the way, have 239 home runs as a team. There's 8 games left. The 61 Yankees had 240 home runs. So that's the kind of that's how powerful and how good this team is. I do disagree with one thing Castellani said. He said they don't have a horrible rotation. Well, for a playoff team, they absolutely do.
Yeah.
It's atrocious rotation. The idea that Lance Lynn is your 3rd starter with an ERA of 6, Like, what are we doing here? That's a problem. So I don't know. I'm very concerned about this team in the playoffs, but I will say this, though. They are good enough where they could just mash their way to this because they are that powerful. They are that good. If I said it wasn't for the Braves, we'd be talking about how amazing this Dodgers lineup is.
Since coming off the IL, JD Martinez has a 750 slugging percentage right now. I mean, the guy is just, and this is something of a, this is since September 8th. So we're talking 14 games, 6 home run. One of my favorite hitters of all time, JD. I mean, he's just continuing to mash. It's, they're going to try to win Slugfest in October. That does worry me because you're facing some of the best pitching in the world. But if there's a lineup that's capable of doing it, at least, for the first few rounds. Probably them.
JD Martinez has 98 RBIs in 100 games.
That's insane.
That's
insane. That is categorically insane.
One of the most underappreciated, just scariest hitters to face to me of the last decade, JD Martinez. I love JD.
James Outman's had a really bad September.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still, though, nice season. He's probably just wearing down, young guy, first full season. But he's still had a nice year. He's another guy the Dodgers have. That I bet he has a nice year next year.
Yeah, five premium players, I think, when you look at their lineup between, obviously, Betts and Freeman and Will Smith. But then Max Muncy is like a fringe, very good player to me. And James Outman's like a fringe, where you could say, you look at the lineup, you're like, fucking Muncy hitting fifth. Don't hang shit to him. He smashes it. So to your point, they can slug their way. But you're really on how bad this Dodgers pitching staff is. Like, this is like Klemmer's conviction is like as strong as you get. This is your 96 mile an hour fastball of conviction right now.
It's just sad to me that you have a team that has that much talent on one side and then none on the other. And I know Kershaw is great, and I love Clayton Kershaw. But at the end of the day, though, he's only going to give you 5 innings too. That's the other thing. It's like, all right, now we got to piecework. Even my ace is only going to be good enough for a best 6 innings. And I love Kershaw to death, but Kershaw ideally is the 3 guy you have come out because then you go out there, give me go around the order a couple of times and keep us in the game. Number 2 guy, said Bobby Miller. I mean, he's fine. He's ideally like a number 4 guy on a rotation. And then you got Lance Lynn. I mean, Lance Lynn's season's been horrible, and he hasn't been that much better with the Dodgers. I know he was at first. ERA is 4.67 with the Dodgers. Not that impressive. It's only getting worse. And then I said, I have no idea who pitches that 4th game. None. So that is a real issue when you start going against the teams we're talking about, the Braves, the Brewers, some of these teams that have really talented teams, Phillies. Are you going to be able to beat them with, Chris Castellani pitching game 4? I don't know.
No, definitely not.
You're fucked if Castellani's pitching game 4. Over to 7. That's me.
Yeah.
Over to 7. We have the Brewers 4, Phillies 5, Dodgers 6. 7 is between the Blue Jays and the Rangers for me, and I'm going to go with the Rangers because they've got the division lead.
Yep.
And we've been out on Rangers, back in on the Rangers, and we're back out for just a quick second. Then they win 4 in a row, so now back in on the Rangers. Cannot figure out this AL West for the life of me. Klemmer, you and I almost my head almost exploded trying to talk through it in our last playoff. How would you categorize this AL West?
This is kind of what happens when you don't have anyone when you have a bunch of good teams and no one who's great. And you'll see this kind of stuff happen a lot where this kind of a race to the middle and no one can really pull away. And this is what we have here. And we're right to throw the Blue Jays right in the mix because they're right in it too because they're all kind of competing for the same spots. At this point, I'm with you, Carl. I went with the Rangers as well because they got a 1.5 lead. And there's only, 6, 7, 8 games left, depending on what the Rangers have 8 games left. So, yeah, a 1.5 lead is huge. So I'm going to go with the Rangers. They've won, 4 in a row? So, great.
Yeah, and also, you have to put them ahead of the Blue Jays. They just went to Toronto and swept them in a 4-game series. And I mean, I think that does, sometimes maybe we put too much stock into the head-to-head stuff, but that was a huge series for both these teams. The Rangers took care of business. So I'm with you. Look, they had a month where they could not get out of their own way, and I still think the bullpen is a massive concern. And even beyond that, look, we know there's no DeGrom. having no Scherzer's going to be tough. I got to say, man, the most underrated pitcher in baseball this year is Jordan Montgomery. Montgomery's been fucking great. And not just that he was really good with the Cardinals as kind of an afterthought because their season was terrible. He might be their game one guy. I know Eovaldi was their dude for most of the season. Eovaldi has not looked good since coming off the IL. Like, they might give him the ball in game one. That lineup is still really scary. They have a guy who's having, outside of Alex Rodriguez, maybe the greatest hitting season by a shortstop ever in Corey Seager. I mean, the guy is just completely, the fact that he's missed this much time and is probably still going to finish in the top 3 for MVP voting, like, I wish I could have seen a fully healthy Corey Seager this year, the kind of numbers he would have put up. They've become more dangerous, and I think you really have to give Bruce Bochy a lot of credit for not allowing this train to derail several weeks ago when it seemed like it was going to. So I think 7 is a well-earned spot for them.
We're taping this early on Sunday morning, so the games haven't taken place yet, but this is a huge day for the Rangers. They got Nathan Eovaldi on the mound. Obviously, they're facing Seattle. We need to see a very good start out of Eovaldi. We need him to, and he's getting better. He's been progressing each start. They kind of give him a little extra leash, see what he can do. He needs to be, because right, Chris, with Scherzer gone, with DeGrom gone, Jordan Montgomery is the ace. That's fine. He's been great all year. We need that number 2 to really solidify themselves. And if Eovaldi can be the Eovaldi we saw back in May or June, this Rangers team gets really dangerous.
Corey Seager should win the batting title.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I like batting titles.
Yeah.
They're going to start mattering more than they ever have because shift being banned. I feel like we're actually going to see, like, those pure hitters be rewarded.
He's also going to lead the league in doubles, by the way, even though he's only played 100 and, at most 19 games, which is pretty wild.
So good, dude. He's so good. Yeah. Number 8?
I do want to make sure we talk about the Astros, though, because they've been putrid, so I know that they probably won't. Are they in
the
here?
Astros at 9.
I have them 9. So, okay,
good. I have them.
So I
have them 9. I have the Mariners. I have the Mariners on the outside. I have Blue Jays after that.
So
sorry, whose pick? I hijacked it.
I have the Blue Jays here. Carl, I had the same kind of dilemma you had, which is like, what am I doing here? Going with the Blue Jays. I think that they are going to take that second wild card spot. I mean, this is so Blue Jays. Like, this is what we talk about every year. I feel like every fucking year with the Blue Jays, we have the same conversation of, like, they're just good but not great. And I think we all know the story is going to play out. I hope I'm wrong because I find the team to be interesting to watch. But they're going to lose in the wild card round, or if they get lucky and they win, then they'll get swept in the ALDS. This is just Blue Jays baseball, which is just constantly underachieving, constantly have talent on paper you think should be better, but yet never terrible. They never pull like a Padres or a Mets where they completely shit the bed. But they do this thing where they win 91 games and they backdoor into the playoffs, and then they don't make it very far. And then they're good enough where you can't really make any real changes, but they're bad enough where you're just left frustrated.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be the Blue Jays. They should be the Blue Balls. That's what this team is. You just always just like leave you with like, oh, that should have been so much better than it was. And you just got a peck on the cheek, and that's the end of your night.
Klemmer, if they get swept in the playoffs, that's new Barstool merch right there. The Toronto Blue Balls, right. Put it on a T-shirt because you're right. They've teased us for 3 years now. Yeah,
I love how much we hate the Blue Jays on this show without prejudice.
Right,
it's earned. The hatred that we have for them is earned.
They don't have anyone with 25 home runs, Carl. Look at that fucking lineup. They have Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
You're right.
I don't know, man.
Great pitching staff, though. Great rotations come along.
They do.
Yeah.
But even that should be better. Alek Manoah got fat and couldn't pitch anymore. I don't know what the hell happened with him.
Good center field combo in Kiermaier and Varsho plays.
Kiermaier's had a really good year. Kiermaier's been a great pickup for them. Yeah.
They don't have any hole. There's nothing wrong with this team. There's like no hole in this team.
So they're in their own way. Team.
Yeah.
On paper, if you were a fantasy owner and you own this roster, you would be thrilled.
Do they need to fire the manager?
I've talked about that before. I think that they keep hiring placeholder managers. Like, I think that's where you need a real, like, culture establisher. I don't think Schneider's awful, but I just don't think he's that guy. If they fall apart here, don't make the playoffs or get knocked out early in the postseason, I bet that might be the first to go because there's not a whole lot. I don't imagine a whole lot of shakeup with the roster. But structurally, the roster is incredibly sound. There's just something missing, it seems, in those big games. But if they turn it on in October, we're not going to be having this conversation.
Joe Madden, perfect manager. Joe Madden be perfect for that clubhouse.
Might be too old now, though.
He still got it.
Think so? We should have the fired manager discussion on the Wednesday show.
I would like that. Let's do that.
Let's talk about who we think is going to get the old axe.
Let's do last team. I think we said Astros, right? Mariners had a chance, blew it. So why don't we do this? Like instead of blowing or saying like why we like the Astros at 9, we could talk about what the Mariners have done wrong this week. And it stinks because they've had their opportunities. They still have another opportunity though. Don't they have 3 games against the Astros starting tomorrow?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, and then they have 3 more. They have 3 more against the Rangers, right? Don't they finish the season against Texas?
I should add too, the Cubs would have been around these conversation points, but they lost that series to the Pirates. Their last 6 games, they're at Atlanta, at Milwaukee to close the season. The Marlins are 1 game behind the Cubs in the wild card standings. They have 3 games at Citi Field against the Mets and 3 games at PNC against the Pirates. So
I will say this, though.
I don't know if that's a 1-game swing in 6 games, but that's a huge advantage to the Marlins.
The Brewers and Braves don't have nothing to play for.
Correct.
Good point.
I think that's not as much of an advantage as you might think. I think those teams are going to throw it neutral and kind of – we already see the Braves. They're going to put Max Fried in the IL.
Matt Olson's playing, though. Ronnie's going to play. Well, I don't know. Matt Olson does not play, and he gets mad if he doesn't play.
Olson and Acuna will play. I think. Or they might miss a game. Like I don't know. If you had to play these teams at all, this is the time to play them.
Good point. Yeah.
And if I had to pick between 2 fucking schedules, I'm taking the Mets and I'm taking the Pirates. But I do agree. You and I are flip-flopping what we were talking about last Wednesday, where I was saying we're sharing sentiments is my point. We're on the right page.
Mets and Pirates both playing relatively tough down. They're not giving games away. Either team. I don't know.
Pirates are 5 games over 500 over their last 37 games. That's a true stat.
That's pretty good for them.
This is one of the. I mean, it's sad to say it's one of the better Pirates teams of recent memory.
It is.
I mean, since that run from 13 to 15, I don't know. I mean, I can't buy into them just because Nutting's their owner and he's such a fool. But I think their future is a little bit bright. Like O'Neal Cruz has been out. They played some respectable baseball. They got Skeens in the farm system. We'll see. But yeah,
Derek Shelton is MLB's Dan Campbell.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I could say. Yeah, they play for their manager. I think is a perfect way to put it. That's fair.
They're not going to lose 90 games. They've already won 74.
Right. No.
So I mean that's. I thought they were going to lose 90. I thought they were going to lose over 90 games this year. So they had a better year than I would have expected.
Hey, but we had them in the power rankings in April for a reason, man. They were red hot.
It's amazing how we find ourselves talking about the Pirates seriously like this, without jesting. We're really breaking down the Pirates. I believe it too. This is good stuff. But we do have the Astros 9 over the Mariners.
I don't know.
Or do we like the Diamondbacks? Do we like?
I still think we put Houston here.
Okay.
They're still in the playoffs, which obviously, if it was, we were talking teams kind of in that wild card spot, I get it, but it's not going to matter where the Mariners are put in this list if they don't make it to October. Right now, Astros are in October. With that said, I am greatly shocked and somewhat disappointed by the way they're playing right now. They don't look like the Houston Astros at all, to a point where I'm almost ready. I'm fine having them at 9. I'm almost ready to pound the gavel on them as a non-contender come October. That's how, they can't beat the Royals, guys. They can't beat them.
With Framber Valdez the mound.
It was 6 runs the Royals scored against. They're in their last 11 games. This was a 3-game set against Oakland, a 2 series against the Royals, and then a 3-game set against the Orioles. They are 3-8. One of those wins was a walk-off win against Baltimore. The pitching staff doesn't look great right now. There's something weird with this team because you talk about it with the Blue Jays. This roster is amazing. And yet it seems like almost every guy, sans maybe Altuve and Tucker, is maybe taken something of a step back. Frommer isn't as good as he was last year. Verlander is as good as he was last year. The bullpen isn't as good as they were last year. I feel like at the end of this year, something's going to come out about. There might be a clubhouse issue or something because they just aren't gelling and they aren't vibing the way that I've seen the boogeyman Houston Astros be the last 6-7 years. If they get in, we know they stack up well because of the pitching matchups. But man, they do not look like the team that I expected to see at this point in the season.
There's a week left in the season, and I want to bring up Kansas City Royals shortstop Bob Witt Jr. His Astros can't beat him. It is worth calling this out. Depending on the last week of the season, how it goes. If he's hot the last week of the season, he's got 28 doubles, 9 triples, 29 homers, 48 stolen bases. A big week, and he could have 30 doubles, 10 triples, 30 homers, 50 stolen bases. And he's 23 years old. That's a remarkable spread. That's insane.
He's so good. And he's a shortstop.
He's so cool. He's just so cool, too. Bobby Witt Jr.
His dad was fun to watch. His dad had electric stuff, wild, like a wild pitcher. Would walk 115 guys a year, but he'd strike out a shitload. And he was always fun. And he finally, at the end of his career, won a ring with the Diamondbacks. Kind of a cool way to cap off the career. So I always like Bobby Witt Sr. and Bobby Witt Jr. is just incredible.
So to recap here, we've got Braves 1, Orioles 2, Rays 3, Brewers 4, Phillies 5, Dodgers 6, Rangers 7, Blue Jays 8, Astros 9. We're limping around the end of that.
We don't know. I mean, the Mariners, the Astros have won 3 of 10. The Mariners have won 5 of 10. No one wants this. And I don't know. I think we're all just kind of throwing our hands in the air a little bit. Like I don't think any of us feel confident Astros over Mariners. Just got to pick somebody. Even the Diamondbacks, you brought them up, Carl. They're only a half game up over the Cubs. Like that's a kind of a crazy chase there. I think the Reds have kind of played themselves out. They're 2.5 back. I don't think there's enough time. But the Marlins are right there. So you got kind of that's what it said. Chris was saying early on, like. This last week is pretty wild. We have a lot of teams going for it. It should be pretty exciting. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I know you are. This is going to be an awesome week of baseball. Yeah, look at that smile on his face, guys.
It is. I'm ready to go. Let's go. All these teams are going at it. A lot of them playing each other. Let's go. This is awesome.
Boys, this is the Barstool Baseball Show. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. We're going to be back on Wednesday for some managers that got fired. Until next time, we'll see you guys soon.